the higher percentage of people will get injured in an internal rotation overhead throw of the arm. Okay? We learned it from the butterfly stroke. There was an extremely high propensity of injuries amongst college students. Now, mind you, when you're in college, you are in the prime of your anatomical sports life. Okay? You're old enough where you're fully grown, but you're just old enough, like 22. That's the prime of your life. Roughly. 20, again, one could argue 18, 19 maybe. Even at 22, they were getting injured already. When they were 18, 19, they could do it. But they started all getting injured from doing the butterfly stroke. That is an internal overhead throw with a lot of force behind it. And so why? Why did that happen? Simple, joint collision. The larger edge of the humeral head was colliding with the spikes at the end of the shoulder blade. And over time, it wore it down and then caused damage, impingement syndrome.
I told you about how I hurt my shoulder, and I think it's because of CrossFit. I used to do it like 5 years ago or something. And I think it's because you put the weight over you, and that's isn't that kind of an internal? Because you're holding the weight, right? Like that. And then you'll do squats like this, and that's putting a lot of pressure.
Yeah, because they have you hold the weight this way.
Like that, the bar, right? So you're holding like that. Is that wrong?
Or if you're doing,
that's not
or
right.
if you're doing,
I try not to put down full, other fitness.
I know, but I did though, because it is really
especially
that's why I
publicly.
stopped.
Yeah, so
I stopped it, after I hurt myself.
the rules are the rules. I will say that. These are the rules. Whether you do it in, CrossFit, or you do it swimming, or you do it somewhere else, the rules of movement are the rules of movement. Okay? So, where you do it. I did CrossFit too, and a lot of people were injured in CrossFit.
Oh yeah, and I think it's
Almost all of it.
Like that.
It's a very high percentage of injuries there.
Yeah.
So, CrossFit's very performance oriented. It's about performance. It's more than anything else. It's very performance oriented. Doesn't mean I won't say I'll never do CrossFit. I just don't tend to do it very often.
but I also think because there's such a high amount of fitness studios, especially in Los Angeles, that create their own methodology instead of anatomy behind their workouts. You're taking a class of methodology instead of anatomy.
Right, but that's why I like to teach anatomy, so that you guys can learn, and then look, you're going to be in this body. For some of you, especially those of you who are younger, you're going to be in the body for another 100 years for millennials. Your average age is going to almost double, they say. I don't know, but I'm just saying, that's what they say. So because of that, every single thing I did wrong, I paid. I will tell you that. I used to press in a handstand and internally rotate, and then swim a lot, body surf and internally rotate overhead throw the arm. And eventually, it took me 5 years, I tore my supraspinatus junction in my shoulder, rotator cuff. It's common. I didn't need surgery. What I needed to do was stop swimming, actually, for a while. Swimming.
What did it feel like when that happened?
My arm was overhead, and the wave pushed my arm back, and I felt I heard a sound of a tear.
Oh.
You could hear it, actually. And I knew, I was like, oh, that didn't sound good. And then, sure enough, I tore my supraspinatus and spinatus junction, which is inside the shoulder. Right in that overhead throw area. It's actually where baseball pitchers often have issues with that junction, because it's an overhead internal throw. Pitch. Right? Again, that same rotation, that same kind of knuckleball, right, where they rotate like that. Again, I learned many years ago, to try to keep it as the sciences are what don't lie. Yeah?
So would you say always externally rotate your shoulders when doing yoga?
When the arm is overhead. It only matters when it's overhead. You can do stuff like this all day long. You can lift like this or something if you want to, anytime when the arm is below. Because where the collision takes place is up here. So when the humeral head is this way, right, where the humeral head is here, it's fine. It's only when the arm is going, and as a matter of fact, if it's angled out, then internal rotation doesn't matter as much because you're still not going to collide. It's only when it's an overhead lift that it matters.
What about elbows high, reaching like when you do the weight classes?
It should be like this. Better. This is better.
Like this way, yeah.
Preferably that, actually.
Not this.
No, that's okay. I think that's okay too. But like the Olympic where they like walk out this way.
Yeah,
Again, there is an angle out though. So it lessens and the pressure's down.
Okay,
So it's pulling you down away from the process. Okay, so it's a little bit different, but again, it's still not ideal because of the transfer up to it. So there is still some collision taking place. But because the arms are angled out far, you're less likely to do heavy joint collision there. Less likely. But then the question is then why did I injure my shoulder so bad? I would have to actually watch your whole thing. You might have been doing a bunch of other things. You could have also been doing this stuff.
Yeah, but that's so dangerous because it's so jerky. You're moving so fast, and so it's like you getting the right technique down. That's probably why that happened too. You know.
Probably, yeah.
It's so fast. You're like lifting.
Very different training. Yeah, I mean, yoga on the one hand and CrossFit on the other.
So different.
They're probably, I guess, again, power yoga, it's still good for like them to do, I think it's good for them to do both. I mean, I did CrossFit, but I got injured too. And I had to stop. I had to. I was like, I can't keep doing this. I can't be getting injured. And I do have experience with movement. Okay, the spine. So we're going to talk a little bit about the spine again. Now the spine, obviously, is a series of joints that are stacking on top of each other. They do articulate, meaning they do move. They are not synovial joints, right? Which meaning they don't have synovial tissue. They don't ride on a bed of synovial fluid, right? They're less mobile, but it is still a mobile system. There's still a lot of movement going on with the spine, especially in yoga. So we have to be a little bit careful when it comes to, especially, not as much forward folds, because as you can see, there's nothing really obstructing the forward part of the spine, right? But when it comes to back bends, I'm sure you can tell just by the tone of my voice. When it comes to back bends, there's a lot of scary stuff back there, right? A lot of things that can go wrong here on this side of it. Can on the front too, but not as much, because you can see here, there's a very intricate webbing of stuff going on where you have to be careful. The cervical spine is tiny, comparatively. You can see, hold on, this will be a little funny looking, but whoa. Got me just chill here for a second. The cervical spine is tiny compared to the lumbar spine. You have a bunch of nerves that run all down through here. You can see why headstand. There are a lot of teachers now like, never teach headstand, never, it's not worth the risk, blah, blah, blah. If headstand is taught correctly, then the risk is slim. If you have people just all over the room kicking up in a headstand, there is a chance of danger there. Okay, there is. But what I want to talk about is like the main aspects of the spine. Why how many of you, I rarely teach deep back bends. I don't know if you guys have noticed. I don't teach a ton of them. It doesn't mean that some of you can't do, like I'll bet you can do back bends pretty easily. If you do them all the time and you're young and your body's used to it, it's fine. It's over time that we often see. And again, there's also anatomy plays a role. Anatomy plays a role because the human body is very different. We are just as different on the inside as we are on the outside. Okay? If I took a snapshot of your bone structure and put it next to Lauren's bone structure, they look very different. the lengths of the processes will be very different from the lateral view. Okay, so through here you have a bunch of nerves. How many of you have seen the pictures of the spine where the nerves run down through? It's like a webbing of nerves that run down through the spine, right? So today I really am going over skeletal structure. But what happens a lot of times with somebody in life is they'll fall and they'll smack one of these discs. And the disc will inflame or bolt out to the side. And then it'll push and impinge against a nerve that runs down through the spine. When that happens, pain will start radiating. Depending on where it is, it'll either radiate out the side to the shoulder, or from the neck to the shoulder. That's really common. Neck pain, they think, oh, my shoulder, my shoulder. I'm like, well, lay on your back. Let me just see, like, this. How's your neck feel? And I'll, like, take pressure off their neck and think, oh, all my shoulder pain's gone. I'm like, you know what? You should go see a doctor, see what the doctor says about your neck. And they're like, oh, you think my shoulder pain is actually neck pain? I'm like, yeah, I think it's your neck. Straining, looking up, things like that, which I talk about in class a lot. Why do I have you guys look down instead of up in triangle? I'm sure you've heard me say that. Some of you probably can look up. You're like, oh. But the minute you look down, right, because I think I showed you that alignment, right? You're in triangle. Watch, let's do it together. So let's stand up for a second. So that it's not just all academic. Okay, so let's do just like a couple things like this. So just like reach your arms up and down and up and down and up and down and up and turn out. So now do triangle. Now you can do triangle and look up. Okay, it's fine. Your neck can do it. It's not killing your neck, right? As long as you're looking up and it's pretty straight. Problem is that a lot of people bend their neck a lot when they do it. So like create space here. Yeah, there. That probably feels better. Now look down. So instead of looking up, look down at your big toe. Undoubtedly, as somebody that has been teaching anatomy for decades now, looking down is just safer. It doesn't mean you can't do it the other way, but there's less chance of strain on your neck when you look down. Can you guys feel that? Mm-hmm. How many of you can feel the difference looking up versus looking down? And I don't expect, like again, if you didn't feel it, did you feel it or no? Okay, it's less strain because you have more muscle mass on the back of your neck. Plus, on the front of your neck, there's more space because you don't have this like dinosaur bone structure that can pinch off and collide and pinch off some of the ligaments and tendons and things, ligaments mainly, with the neck. So when you're looking down, again, you're on the front part of these discs. It's just safer. Doesn't mean that you can't do it the other way. For those of you looking up the whole time, and you want to do that, you can do it. But you're going to, eventually, you might start to find that students, and again, for teacher training, you want to hit as many of the percentages as possible. How many people can do that safely versus not? Okay? So that's the cervical spine. Look down. Don't compress it. When you teach headstand is actually, believe it or not, elbow stand. That's what headstand actually should be. Like you should almost be able to slide like a piece of cardboard under your head when you do your headstand. Not a lot of pressure on your neck, because if it's all on your neck, this structure can't take a lot of pressure. And if there's a slip in that scenario, you could really hurt your neck. Okay, you can. There's also there's arteries that run through here too to feed your brain. If you damage those, it's not good. Again, I'm not trying to scare you guys, I just want to give you some fundamental facts that we know about poses. Okay? So look down instead of up. When the spine is injured and you get a disc that is, so there's a bulging disc and then there's a herniated disc. What's the difference? Do you guys know?
Yeah. A bulging disc is probably inflammation, and a herniated disc is probably like a tear.
Yes. So the bulging disc means that the disc is just like bulging out. Still bad, depending on how many millimeters it is. But when it's ruptured, if it's actually like burst, and it's a herniated disc and it's actually burst, the disc is basically like, I didn't bring my chalkboard, which I should have, I left that at home. But the disc is kind of like a jelly donut. Is everyone familiar with a jelly donut? So think of a jelly donut. Inside there's a bunch of soft jelly. When the disc is healthy, it's like that. It's soft and it's bouncy and it's actually hydraulic. It's quite an amazing system. Unlike muscle, where there's like fibers that all run in the same direction, right? Not the disc. The discs are like stacked fibers and they're cross-angled. So they're like plywood where they're stacked in all different directions. And not only that, but inside there's something called the nucleus pulpus. So nucleus pulpus, maybe you should write that one down. Nucleus pulpus is in the center of the disc. And that nucleus pulpus is literally like a pulp-like, jelly-like substance inside that absorbs shock and pressure. When it gets ruptured, it leaks out. When it leaks out, the joint collapses more, and when it collapses, it has less space for what? Now there's no space. For what?
For movement.
For movement, and more importantly, the nerves, right? Because the nerves run through the spine. And so when the disc collapses, the nerves get pinched because there's less movement. And when the nerves get pinched, there's extreme pain, right? So pain as a result of having the disc damaged. So what can we do? Create space. So in yoga, you always hear me say, when I teach upward dog, length and space, right? They kind of both mean the same thing, but think of it as like you're creating length in your spine to create space for the nerves, okay? Space for the nerves. Because when the nerves don't have space, they tend to pinch, and when they pinch, they inflame, and when they inflame, they cause pain. And so for people, when they start doing a lot of yoga with you, and you start working, especially when you do one-on-one, which is a lot of how I make a living as a teacher, aside from owning a school, is teaching one-on-one privates. And alleviating the pain is from alleviating the pressure on the nerves most of the time. I'd say 90% of the time. Okay. When the spinal column, it also does another thing to understand about the spinal column in relationship to yoga. You see a lot of people saying like, scoop your tailbone, tuck your tailbone, take the, tilt it forward. That's so if you're doing fierce pose and you push your butt back. So let's go into fierce pose real quick. And you go like this. You push your butt back into lordosis. There's a greater chance you're going to pinch these lower lumbar. But if you scoop your tailbone forward a little bit, the pressure in your lower lumbar goes away. You guys feel that? Push it back, it compresses. Push it forward, it tucks under. You don't feel it as much, right? So you do a slight pelvic tilt. It's called pelvic nutation. Pelvic nutation, so it's N-U-T-A-I-T-I-O-N. Pelvic nutation alleviates lower lumbar compression. A lot of people do the opposite. They push their butt back. I don't know why. It's just human nature. We just do that. I don't know.
What about the arch in your back?
It's probably like, I don't know.
The booty craze.
Yeah, I think it's that.
It is.
Pelvic nutation.
Nutation. Is scooping your tailbone forward. Scooping your tailbone forward. Pelvic nutation. Okay. On that note, on the booty craze note, we'll take a break. Let's take a few minutes and just grab some water, grab a towel.